When it comes to looping, there is one important thing that you need to know before moving on into this guide, and that is looking behind you in a chase. Like, some survivors really underestimate the power of it. Like, simply by looking behind you, you can avoid so many mind games already. Keep in mind that a killer can see if you're looking behind you or not. If they see that you're not looking behind you, they will take that in their advantage and try to mind game you. So looking behind you is super important. But a lot of people take that too seriously or too literally. So when I say that you have to look behind you in a chase, it doesn't mean that you all of a sudden have to forget what's in front of you, because a lot of people focus on the looking behind part that they start to forget about looking in front of them as well. So you need to make sure that you always have to know what's in front of you before looking behind you. Memorizing a loop before approaching it is really important, because let's say you're approaching a loop, right, and you're not looking behind you. Let's say you're approaching a jungle gym. Well, that killer can literally just go the opposite direction, and there you go, he cuts you off and you die, or you get hit and you get injured. However, if you approach the loop while looking behind you, the killer can't do that. That's already one mind game that the killer can't do. Does that mean that you can't get mind gamed anymore? No, that's not true. You can still get mind gamed when you look behind you as well. But these are mind games that happen behind LOS. So what do I mean by that is, if you're approaching a loop, even when you look behind you and the killer, is chasing you, the killer will obviously try to moonwalk or try to go the opposite direction of the loop and try to hide their red stain. Now, it's important to keep track of a killer's red stain. Why do I say that? It's because they will try to really manipulate and play around that red stain so they can confuse you in what direction they're coming in. But when you see a killer doing this, it is important that you have good reaction time. You always want to be prepared. You always want to make sure that you're standing in a spot that is safe to you. And I'll come back to this later on in this video, because I will be talking about check spots, and they're basically areas in certain loops where you basically cannot get caught if you play it correctly, or if you play the loop correctly. You basically are invisible. When it comes to looping, the first thing that I want you to know is looking behind you, pay attention at the red stain. These are two basics that you need to know before getting into this full guide. The next thing I want to talk about, and I made a few separate videos on those on certain and different tiles, and that is check spots. Now, what is check spots? You may have heard of it before, or you may have seen a video of mine about it before, and that is basically, like I mentioned before, areas in certain loops where you basically feel invisible if you played it correctly. You can play check spots on many tiles, but there will be certain tiles where it will be easier than others. For example, jungle gyms, if you know how to play check spots in jungle gyms, well, then you're basically super invisible. But there are certain palettes that are a little bit more unsafe. Even with a volt speed build, if the killer has bloodlust, you will most likely still get hit. But that doesn't take away the fact that you can waste a killer's time for so long, even if that tile is less safer than other tiles. So what I'm trying to say here is that you don't really have to rely on volt speed perks if you're doing check spots in like safer loops. However, if you do them in, less safer loops, it would always be nice to have a volt speed build with it. You can do it without volt speed build, but the problem is there are other details that come in play, such as bloodlust and ping. And if you have demonic ping, such as 18 or 16 ping in game, well, then check spots is your best friend. Like, I don't think you need anything else in this guide than just check spots if you have that less ping. I've seen people with 12 ping. It's unbelievable. If you have such ping, it is insane. I think I play on like 28, which is still super good. But if you play on that ping, then it's insane. So let's say if the killer has 60 ping and you're doing check spots on a tile that is a little bit less safe than a jungle gym where you can do check spots on, you will most likely get hit even if you time it correctly. Like, even if you time the vault correctly because of ping. Or, like I mentioned before, bloodlust. The whole topic about check spots, it is so detailed and it will be complicated for some people, that I do have all my check spot guides in my description. So if you want to check them out, they're made in different tiles and they're so good. If anything, check spots will probably be the most important thing that I will be talking about in this whole guide. It is so so helpful, and it's unbelievable. So if you want to watch them separately, you will find every single CheckSpot video in the description. But this was just a explanation on what CheckSpots really is, and I will still show one example in this video as well, so you can get to see the power of playing a certain palette super correctly, and the timing, of course. All right, let's try and play some CheckSpots here. Nice try, nice try, nice try. Damn! Okay, okay, okay. Let's go ahead. Oh man, I have to time my fucking volts. Alright, alright. No, 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 no. That's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it's long side.
That's not gonna happen either. Oh man, I'm scared of the ping. I'm scared of the ping. You're scaring me, dude. No.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. You're gonna keep going that way? Like... Nah, bro, you're scaring me, bro. It's actually scary as fuck. Ooh. I see what you're doing. That's not gonna work. You're not gonna do the behind the wall mind game. That's not gonna work. So the ping that I'm playing on is 220. 220 ms. Like, that is crazy. Alright, alright, alright. No.
Okay, okay.
No. Nice try.
Wait.
Nice. That was good. Nice. Okay, okay. The next thing what I want to talk about is greeting palettes or pre-dropping palettes. And this one is a little bit difficult to approach because it depends on many factors in the game. But I will just explain it the way how I play and the way how I loop killers. Now, the first thing I want to say here is you always have to believe in your own skill. For this example, I will be using a anti-loop killer because I think that's the best way how to learn, right? I'm not going to go towards like Trapper. I mean, I know Trapper has traps, but I mean, let's take Clown for example, or Freddy who has snares, right? Let's say you're getting chased by Freddy and you're approaching a loop. You're obviously looking behind you, like I said, and you're analyzing the loop what's in front of you. You always want to make sure you do that first. You obviously know, let's say the loop is a normal tile, like a pallet, you know, pallet gym, or just a normal filler palette that you will find on Macmillan, for example. It's not too much on the unsafer side. It's like in the middle. It's not too safe, not too unsafe. So the killer is Freddy. What's going on in my head is he will put a snare. He will most likely put a snare to slow me down and try and get a hit on me on this, you know, filler palette. The moment I see him trying to use his anti-loop, skills, like his abilities, I can do two things. Actually, I can do three things. If there is another tile nearby, let's say you have a filler palette, but let's say there is like a tile nearby next to it, like a bigger loop, I'll connect that loop. Even though that loop doesn't have a palette, I'll connect that loop so I can make the loop bigger. And that's where we talk about connecting loops. So that is number one thing that I can do. Another thing I can do is pre-drop the palette. I can pre-drop the palette when I see him using his, anti-loop abilities. I can pre-drop it. Now, when you pre-drop a palette, usually a killer will try to still mind game you on that palette and put even more of their anti-loop abilities. And that is, if the palette is too unsafe, they will most likely get a hit. And the third thing that you can do is connect loops. What I said in the beginning is you can connect a tile next to the loop, like right next to it. I've seen that DBD has been doing this a lot more recently. They're adding a bigger structure next to a loop, and you can kind of loop that near the loop before approaching the loop. And this third thing that I'm talking about here is connecting the loop. Let's say you have a filler palette, and next to that filler palette is shack palette, or there is a cow tree next to it. You want to connect that, or there is a window, like there is a window like going towards main. You can go around that and go back to the palette. That is connecting a loop. And there is three things you can do. You can either use a structure next to the loop, you can pre-drop, and you can connect the loop. There are surprisingly many options that you can do against anti-loop killers, and once you know a few of them, you're pretty much like good to go in that aspect. But there's another thing that I do know that's probably going through your head right now, and that is, how do I hug the loop efficiently to get the most out of it? Now, you don't want to hug it too tight, of course. Now, what I mean by that is, if you have a loop and you're looping it but you're not hugging the loop, what you're basically doing is you're making the loop, pretty much unsafe for yourself. If the killer hugs the loop but you don't, he will catch up to you quicker, even if you think that the killer is slow, or it can be a 4.4 movement speed killer, such as Huntress. They will still catch up if you don't hug the loop. Now, I've seen a lot of people telling me, I do get stuck a lot on tiles and everything, and that's why they don't really hug the loop. The only way how to practice this is by going into a custom game and run around a structure multiple times until you feel comfortable you can like loop without getting stuck on it. Don't hug it too tight. If you hug a loop too tight, you will get stuck as well. But if you don't hug the loop, then you will create too much space and the killer will catch up. So you always want to like make sure that you're hugging it just perfectly. And when you do that while looking behind you, like analyzing what's in front of you and all that kind of stuff that adds up, I know it can be very overwhelming, but at the end of the day, it will pay off. I know it sucks like going into a custom game sometimes and like learning all of this stuff. I know it takes time, but if you want to improve in looping, then that's the thing that you have to do. There is obviously safer palettes than others, and we know that, and some palettes you don't even really have to hug the loop to be able to drop it. But what I mean by that essentially is, if you want to make the most out of it, and if you kind of want to greed the palette a little bit longer, and you're confident that you can still make another loop around it, if you know that you can hug the walls, then you can go for it, if you believe in your... That's why I said you kind of like have to believe in your own skill. Like I mentioned before, you do have to believe in it to be able to do stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, I know you're here to learn, and you're probably wondering like, what does he mean by believe in your own skill? Regardless of if you're new or like advanced or anything, you always have to just believe in yourself. That's just a mental thing. Like, you just always have to believe that you can do something. If you keep thinking that you're not going to be able to do it, and that thing is going in your head while you're looping, then you will most likely not be able to do it. Always keep thinking that you can do it, and that's it, And if you fail, well, no problem. Then you can just try it again. And then one more last thing that I want to add to it that you can also, do as an extra, and that is palette vacuum. Now, if you want to get a guaranteed stun on a killer, sometimes you will have to palette vacuum. Now, what is a palette vacuum? And you can see me do that in pretty much all of my palette stuns, because it's just the best way and most efficient way to get a palette stun. That is pretending that you're going for another loop, but then like you suck back to the palette and you drop it. Like you vacuum back to it, and then you drop it. And you can see some perfect examples here, like like I'm literally just running, and it may look like I'm going to take another loop, but I just vacuum back to it and I drop it on the killer. Now, why is that a guaranteed stun? It's because from the killer's POV, you're basically just running through the pallet like it looks like you're about to go for another loop, but you know, in reality, you're just pretending, and then you're going for a stun. It's just a nice thing to add up to all the looping skills that you're already learning. It's the pallet vacuum. And then another thing I want to add to it, and a little bit more advanced, that this one actually I did talk about in one of my older guides, and it's basically a micro fake. What is a micro fake? Like, what is this guy saying? Like, what are you talking about? Now, a micro fake is basically when you play against slightly better killers, like actually like good killers. What you can do sometimes is micro fake a pallet. Now, it's like a certain movement that you do, like a small movement that you do on a pallet that makes it almost look like you're dropping it. Now, a lot of people used to do it with like crouching on the pallet, but you're kind of losing momentum. Like, you don't really want to do that with crouching. And I've tried it before. I did it with crouching and I did it with micro fake, and I'm telling you, the micro fake is the best. So basically what it is, it's really, really good. You're running through a pallet, and here's an example where you like, you know, do like a zigzag on the pallet. It's just a movement that you usually don't do when you're just looping normally, and it almost makes it look like you're about to drop it, you know? The next thing I want to talk about is walking in a chase. Sometimes you can walk in a chase to lose bloodlust from a killer and reset bloodlust so you can use a window multiple times. Now, a window gets blocked after 3 times of vaulting it in a chase, but when you're not in chase and you vault a window, then the window does not get blocked. Not only is walking in a chase good for that, but you can also recover from your exhaustion perks, especially in like really safe loops, and recover from your exhaustion perks. Looping the edge map. Edge map is super strong because it's so far away from all the objectives on the map. And against certain killers such as a nurse, or especially just insta-down killers, if you find yourself, you know, away from basically almost everything else of the map, like especially what's in the middle and the tiles and the loops, you always have edge map, and edge map is your best friend. It is super, super strong against nurse. You'll be surprised how strong edge map is against the nurse. The amount of time I looped nurses for like 3-4 gens just by looping edge map is insane. Because when you loop on edge map, if the chase is long, then it's a win. If the chase was okay-ish, it's still a win because you're far away from all the objectives. If the killer has perks like pain res or wants to get to a certain gen after they hook you, like everything is so it's basically, it's all bad for the killer. Like, it's literally all bad for the killer. And it has some good tiles. Edge map has some decent tiles, especially when you play against insta-down killers. You have those U walls and Z walls on Macmillan, and I think U walls on Coldwind, if I remember correctly. And they're adding a lot of other tiles, like I don't know, like they're adding the whole alphabet. And to be honest, you can really play with a killer on edge map. It is like, it can save you a lot, especially against insta-down killers. You can force them to M1 you when there's like a window and you really like know how to like play edge map correctly. You can use that window to your advantage to force an M1 from a killer. Now, most killers will probably be greedy and still wait for the M2, but regardless, they will still waste a lot more time trying to get that insta down. And like I said, since they're on edge map, you know, to get to their objective like faster, that's also not an option. So yeah, it is good. In general, edge map, it's your best friend when you're out of resources. Even like something simple as a tree, like you can literally just loop a tree and there's a high chance a killer will just, you know, hit the tree or bump with their chainsaw into the tree. Like, you will be surprised. Like, just use everything in your advantage. I even did have a video on one of my channel where I did loop like an Oni for like I think like 5 gens actually on like 3 pallets or 4 pallets, I don't remember. It was literally like 20% of the map, like only 20%. And yeah, it's just to show how strong it is. But of course, I used every step. Of course, I analyzed the map, I looked behind me, I looped every pallet efficiently. Oni is one of the strongest killers in their power. But without power, they're basically just an M1 killer. If you think about it, Oni is weaker than Trapper without power. If you think about it that way, since, you know, at least Trapper has traps, but Oni has nothing. Unless they hit you and, you know, get your blood or hit someone else, get their power, then they're super, super strong. But if they don't, then, you know, they're super, super weak. And you can really, you know, take that to your advantage to, like, you know, loop efficiently, you know, drop pallets in time. If you're playing against Oni, and, you know, just an extra tip that I'm going to be adding here, whether you're playing with a Swift or you're playing solo, like I said, always believe in your own skill. When you're playing against an Oni, you don't want to give Oni power in first 5 gens left of the game. So yeah, drop Shack Pallet even at 5 gens. It's perfectly fine. Coming from someone like me saying it, it is 100% fine dropping Shack Pallet at 5 gens. If you do decide to get hit because you want to greet Shack Pallet because you don't want to drop it for endgame, I'm sorry to tell you, you probably won't even reach endgame if you give Oni power at 5 gens. I'm just saying. Once you think about it that way, you will start connecting the dots. So yeah, 50-50s. Yes, those 50-50 pallets or windows, you know, that, you know, mostly it's luck. Like, that's, you know, 50, it's all luck. But if you can stay more patient sometimes than the killer, then you will win that pallet regardless. I have a few examples where, but this, I wouldn't really say that that's something that will be guaranteed, because it really depends. Like, you really have to be patient. It's like when you have like a pallet and you're having a pallet standoff, right? Let's say you're having like a pallet standoff with a killer, and you're trying to time the pallet stun when he swings, right? That's how you can compare it. Like, the best way how to, like, I think, improve your reaction time, it's like having a killer stand on the opposite side of the pallet while you're on the other side, and just letting them swing and you time the stun, right? Patience is so important when you're looping tiles that are absolute bad. Yeah, those 50-50 pallets are horrible. But if you can stay more patient than the killer, then there is a chance that you will win the pallet. Now remember, there are many techs that you can do in DBD, such as 360, moonwalking, air and teching, all that kind of stuff, you know, window tech. Those are all fancy. They're all fancy. You kind of want to avoid using these unless you are in a very bad spot and you have nothing else that you can play around it. But most of the time you will always have something. Like I said, even if you have a simple tree, you can use that tree to juke a killer around it. Now there is one tech, however, one tech specifically, that I have insane amount of success with. FOV tech is insanely strong. The amount of times I managed to FOV tech insanely good killers and even baby killers is insane. Basically what it is, it's a 360, but not around the killer. But the killer thinks that you went around them, which is why it's so effective, because what you notice that when I do FOV techs, the killer like almost turns around, but then hits, you know, hits the wall or like the wind. Like, it's like sometimes they do 360s. Like, sometimes the killer does a 360 when you FOV tech, and it's so funny because it's basically that. It's a 360 in front of a killer. How does it work? Well, you just spin around like in front of a killer. When is it the best to use it? Around line of sight. When you lose line of sight, that's where you use an FOV tech. FOV techs are very ineffective when you do it without line of sight. You can still do them, but the success rate is like 10%. It's like super low. I managed to do it a few times, but the best way how to do it is when you lose line of sight. It is a really good tech. Another thing I want to say is that a lot of people ask me like, what's better, mouse and keyboard, controller, PS5 controller, Xbox, or, you know, all that kind of stuff. Honestly, like I said in my other recent guides as well, it really does not matter whether you play on a keyboard or PS5, PS4, Xbox controller, because it's the same thing as people asking me on what sensitivity I play on. Let's say you play on 70, right? And you're so used to 70, you do well on 70, like you're doing amazing. But you see someone else doing really insane loops, but their sensitivity is 90. it doesn't mean that when you magically change your sensitivity to 90 that you will play as that person, or when you see someone play mouse and keyboard, you're thinking, I'm gonna swap to mouse and keyboard, and you'll magically play like that person. Because at the end of the day, it is you. You're the one controlling that mouse and keyboard. You're the one behind it. You're the mastermind behind all that stuff. So yeah, maybe the only important setting is like reshades. It's like to, enhance the, brightness of your game and the red stain and all that kind of stuff. I do have my reshade settings on my Discord, so if you want to join my Discord, you can still use my reshades. So if you want to use mine, feel free to join my Discord. You will find a channel to my reshades. If you made it this far into this video, I tried to cover up, most of the important stuff when it comes to like looping. So yeah, if you made it this far and the video was helpful, please leave a like, subscribe, share it with a friend that is also trying to learn how to loop. And yeah, I'll be making more guides in the future, and stay tuned. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really hope you guys will improve. Let me know in the comments if there is anything else that you struggle with, and maybe I can help you out in the comments. And apart from that, thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.